Thank you for coming out to God's Missionary Church World Missions Department service. And I'm going to show you some pictures tonight, but just in case I'm rushed for time at the end of this presentation, I just want to get this out of the way. I want to thank all the churches of our God's Missionary churches who contribute to the missions department throughout the year. And also I want to thank individuals that also support our missions department throughout the year. We have a budget that we have to meet, and we appreciate all of you and your faithfulness. I thank God that He has given me the privilege to serve as a missions director. I was doing missions way before I became director of World Missions, and I'll be doing missions probably till I can't go anymore, even after I'm director. So I don't know where that's going to happen, but missions is my passion. And I just thank God that there were some missionaries stationed in Miami, and I know our conference president talks a lot about knocking on doors. And you know what? One day, someone knocked at my door. And I answered the door, and I opened the door, and there stood missionaries inviting me to Sunday school. And that was right after our family escaped from Cuba. People tell me, you ought to write a book, you ought to write a book. Well, I started to write a book, and I got to page 2, and I haven't done anything. And somebody's been giving me advice how to write a book. And by the way, right here in this book, author Joey Boonsick, there's a short story here about my escape from Cuba. And in short, it's a short story. And you can find this book at the Camp Bookstore. So that's a little plug for Joey there. All right. Now, I want to, obviously, I only have so much time, but I want to, before I start, I want to ask Eric Laureano from Belize. He's here visiting, and I'm so glad to see him. And I asked him to say, you can sing and you can say a few words, and he more or less told me that his words are going to be in his song. So, Eric, you're on.
Good evening. It's a privilege to be here. Aren't you glad that you can be free tonight? I was in that service last night, and God really came, and that song has been on my mind. I am free since last night. I would like to share it this evening. So long I have searched for life's meaning, enslaved by the world and my greed. Then the door of my prison was opened by love, for the ransom was paid. I am free. I'm free from the fear of tomorrow. I'm free from the guilt of my past, for I traded my shackles for a glorious song. I'm free, praise the Lord, free at last. I am free from the guilt that I carry, from the dull, empty life I'm set free. For when I met Jesus, He made me complete. He forgot the foolish man I used to be. I'm free tomorrow. I'm free from the guilt of my past, for I trade in my shackles for a glorious song. I'm free, praise the Lord, free at last. Now to God all my life I am giving, for he gave his only son just for me. He gave me a life that's worth living, and from sin he set my soul free. I'm free from the fears of tomorrow. I'm free from the guilt of my past, for I trade in my shackles for a glorious song. I'm free, praise the Lord, free at last. I'm free, praise the Lord, free at last.
Thank you, Brother Eric. I have, like I've said, I have lots of pictures, but it would take just way too long. So I just selected a few that I want to show you and talk about them. Turn this thing on. Of course, if you were here Monday night, you saw, you heard Brother Kuman, Brother Simon Kuman, and all that he's doing and his lessons that he's given, this literature that he's having print. Somebody asked me, is it too late to give for Brother Kuman's ministry? I said, no, you can always do that. So if you still want to, printing materials and feeding those prisoners, I'm sure they have food in the prison, but prison food is not too great. So he, goes through the effort of feeding whenever he can. And that takes just a lot of funds to do that. So if you still want to give towards his ministry, of course you can. Then I'm going to start out with Brazil. I drew that little map there. I'd enjoy it. I put it up there and with that arrow to give you an idea where Brazil. Brazil is the largest country in South America. All that green part is Brazil. But our churches are in the northern part of Brazil, close to the equator, where it's very, very hot. And there's 3 churches, one in the city of Manaus, right along the Amazon, is the state of the Amazon. And the other two are like about 4-hour drive. One of them is in a town called Nova Romance, and the other one is in a remote area where you have to get a rubber boat to get there, is Lago de Cana. And I'm still praying for a missionary. We have a very, very nice mission house in the city of Manaus, and I wouldn't mind being a missionary there. There's malls and shopping centers and all that. There's no remote anything about the city of Manaus, but that's where one of our churches is. Anyways, this is a picture of when I was there, I think a couple of years ago, and so I went to Brazil last year in December, but I got very sick and I couldn't make it there, so I had to return home early. But this is visitations that we did along the river, families that live along the river. They come to church, and that's where they park their boats there. You see up on the hill there, in Riverbank, you see the church, and you see, and that's how we get around visiting. It's a real neat experience. on the river. I didn't put the picture, but it took me fishing, and I caught one fish. And they were catching right and left. I mean, and I was wondering what was happening. Well, I was casting my line right where they were casting their line. And I don't know if the fish knew somebody was strange or something, but I cannot lie. Just like I told the other folk where I've been, I cannot lie. I caught only one, not 15. I love to go into Bass Pro Shop, and that big sign, if you've been there, you know what it says: welcome hunters, fishermen, and other liars. So I love that. Every time I go there, it amuses me. So I only caught one fish. But anyways, that's how we get around there, visiting. And then this is me preaching now in the city. I'm sort of showing these pictures backwards because this is normally where I go first, and then I go to the remote area. So there's me preaching in Spanish. It's a wonder. They asked me to preach. Both times I was there, because last time when I got sick, I got to go there before I got sick. And so I preached both times that I was there in Spanish, and I told them that I could not preach in Portuguese. And they said, well, okay, you preach in Spanish, and it's okay, we'll understand. And I think I might have told you this last year when I was talking about Brazil, that the Spanish language, the Spanish and the Portuguese language are so similar that you can almost understand. They can understand me almost everything, but I cannot understand them just very little, because they speak so fast. That reminds me of a Cuban that speaks so like a machine gun. That's the way they speak. But anyways, I preach, and they seem to understand. And I preach very slow, and every now and then I says, are you understanding what I'm saying? And they assure me that they are understanding. So anyways, I told them the Spanish and the Portuguese language are so similar that when they send me texts, I read them, and my eyes are looking Portuguese, and my brain is telling me it's Spanish. It's real strange the way that works. But I told them, I says, with the Portuguese language, and I don't know if they got mad or not. I don't think they got mad. I was just teasing them. I says, the Portuguese language makes me think of a Spaniard many, many years ago when he was writing the Spanish language, and he was a really bad speller because all those words are mixed up, but they're very, very similar. Anyways, we had communion, and I had never taken communion with them, and I don't know if you can see the big cups. They have big cups with a lot of, grape juice in them, and I never seen that before. There was grapes and bread, quite a display. It was real neat, really attractive. And when it came time for us to drink the wine, and I was hoping that it was okay, and they assured me that it was okay, that there was no alcoholic beverage. I didn't know what their custom was, but I drank the whole thing, and it was really, really good. So anyways, we had communion, and that's just a conglomeration of pictures that I just put there. So you have to look quick because I'm going to the next slide. So it's a real interesting culture. It reminds me of it's very similar to the Latin culture where I'm used to, the countries that I'm used to going, and also the Hispanic people in Miami. They like to get up front and sing and testify, and they just love to get up front, versus our culture that if you ask somebody to get up front, they refuse. They don't want to get up front, but they love to get up front. So that can be a good thing, and it can be, a bad thing too. So that's the church out in Lago de Cana. It's the largest church, and they have to go in boats. They can't get there in the car, and they park their boats where I showed you in the other picture that I showed you. And that is a thriving church. That pastor, Eliabe, he's the national pastor, and he really is a mover and a shaker. Like you saw the pictures of us visiting. He does that on a regular basis, visiting the families along the river, and they're always having special services for the ladies, for the young people, for the children, and they celebrate anniversary, all kinds of anniversaries and birthdays. So he just keeps the people real active that way. And he is, Pastor Eliabi is a dynamic preacher. I don't understand a lot of what he's saying, but he just acts dynamic. So anyways, they're doing really good. And also Guatemala. And I also put a map there and an arrow just to give you an idea in case some of you have never seen a map. I'm sure you have. But this is where Guatemala is. And we've been working with Pastor Alex for several years now. I've known this congregation. I've known, let me see. Picture of Pastor Alex. There he is. Pastor Alex and his family, I've known them for over 15 years, and they're good holiness folk, and we're working with their church. Let me see. Oh, boy, I got really ahead of myself. I'm going backwards. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm stealing my own thunder. Anyways, okay. Congregation in Guatemala. Well, I'll just whatever the pictures come up, whatever order, I'll just talk. We're working with them, and we're working in an outreach. We're helping them with finances, with transportation. Transportation is expensive in Guatemala, and a group of their church go to a neighboring town in Santiago, and they have every Friday they have a service. And our goal is to build a church in that town. Okay. No, I'm going the other way now. Okay, there I'm preaching in Guatemala. I don't have to preach in Portuguese or English. I'm preach in Spanish there, so that's no problem there. That's their congregation. And they have a real nice group. They've built that church. They received help from somewhere else, and they were able to build that church. And they have several young men in that church, and one of them, his brother, Pastor Alex's brother, is a construction guy, and he designed all those columns, and they put a second story on there. And, of course, that's him. And that's a picture of the outreach. They have services in this house where it's all broken up and not everybody fits in one room. So there you see, and like I said, our ultimately our goal is to build a church, and there's a little development on that, but I can't say much about that right now. And then Haiti. We have 7 churches in Haiti, 2 Christian day schools, 1 Bible college. And I just heard I just received some information that Haiti is on level 4 of danger. They've ordered the American employees for the American embassy to evacuate, to come back to the States. Just a skeleton crew is left there. It's really, really bad. It's very, very dangerous, even for the Haitians themselves. And so I'll just show, this is the school in Leogan, Christian Day School. The attendance is down, but they're still going strong. And this is the school in La Croix, the students there, the Christian Day School. And this picture is of the congregation in Carrefour. That's where Sister Emma is pastoring. If you remember last year, she was here. This is 2022 graduates, which makes me happy to look at these, that in spite of all the dangers and all the violent gangs and all that, they were able to have a graduating class last year. And then this year, Brother Mobley tells me that more students would be attending the college, but because of the danger in traveling, they can't get there from where they live. So this is the first year college class, and this is the second year. So even though there's just two handfuls, it makes me happy that the school is still going strong. And this is, of course, Sister Emma. And then Cuba. We were able to send money to Cuba. And the children need a classroom on their own. And just what the lettering there on that text says, training or teaching children in a country where they teach that there is no God. So even though they teach otherwise in public schools, the children can hear about Jesus in the church there in Cuba. There's me preaching in Cuba, and this is a picture. I was there last November, and this is me preaching, the most recent one, and this is who I was preaching to there. Of course, I didn't take my own picture, but I took that one. And even a baby dedication, and that's sweet. Yes. And then Miami. We were in Miami, my wife and I, about 3 weeks ago, just before I came up north. And this is two individuals who, by that time, they're probably baptized by now. They've been discipled, and these are not the only ones, but there were others that were discipled before them, and they've been baptized. The church is doing really good numerically and financially. They just completed a $12,000 big project. Well, I say big. It was the bathroom in the living quarters was all rotted, and they had to tear down walls and floor and everything, and it cost $12,000. And they did it. They raised the money themselves and did it. So I was really impressed with that. And that was, I just put all those pictures together. I want to put them together so they don't look all, lined up. But that was one time when I was there. I was in December, I think it was, when I was there preaching. We had an altar service, and people came and sought the Lord. And that picture right there, that's about 3 weeks ago. If you'll see, not working. Anyways, my wife and I there at the right-hand side, and we had a group picture taken. And this is Eric's territory, Crooked Tree, Belize. And I was there in March. I went to Guatemala. I was in Central America for a whole month. And I was in Guatemala for a convention. Then I went to visiting, and then I borrowed a mission vehicle and drove through the border and drove into Crooked Tree. It was a real neat experience going through the border. The first time I've done that. And there's me preaching there. And one thing about preaching in Belize, when somebody goes there for like a weekend meeting, all the churches, neighboring churches like the Nazarene Church and people from the community, they come and they fill up the house. And that was I was just very pleased to see all that full house and me, preach to all of them. When I go on the mission field, I preach mostly strictly holiness messages. That's what I do. There are pastors, they can give them encouraging messages or whatever, but when I go, I preach entire sanctification and heart purity. That is what I do. I think that's the end of it. So anyways, if the ushers will help me do an offering, we have a budget, like for our budget for Haiti alone is like $1,800 every month. So that adds up by the time you count 12 months. So like I said, I really thank all of you who contribute and all the churches. And we support Cuba. We support, of course, in Haiti, we pay salaries to the professors at the college and the Christian day schools and the pastors who run those schools. So like I said, it's $1,800 per month. And And then we support Brazil. They have to pay legal fees, and we take care of that. And in Cuba, we support that, and transportation and salary for pastors over there. So we have a budget, and we got to meet that budget. So I really, really appreciate. In Haiti, I just heard that the compressor or the generator that we raised an offering for last year is down again. So they're wanting a small generator, at least to have lights. They have to carry the water because the water pump is not working, and they have to, I don't know what they're doing, candles or whatever. They don't have electricity, and the city electricity is just, out of the question. So we need some funds, and I told Brother Jeremy Fuller I'm going to have to learn how to take up offerings from him because he's really good at it, but I'm really bad at it. So I just hope we get enough money this evening. I'm not going to ask for a certain amount, but we need a lot of money. So that's all I can tell you. Let's see, Brother Jim, would you ask the blessing for the offering, please?